Hello everyone. Today we are looking at my wooden wall plaque I made for a friend at work. I built this out of some old pallets and unfortunately some materials I had to buy. So let's take a look at the process that went behind the creation of this magnificent piece. The first step when doing anything with pallets is preparing your wood. Pallet slats are in usually pretty bad shape. A lot of splinters, a lot of rough edges, so you really do have to put a lot of work into the preparation. I had to run each slat through the planer probably 5 or 6 times just to get wood that was actually consistent thickness and a quality I could actually use. So I finished running through all my boards, all of them through the planer. So everything is very, very smooth. I will show you one here. This is the face side, which looks amazing. Back side, again, no one's gonna see this. It's gonna be up against the wall, so I left that a little rough. Edges I will do later. No, actually I won't. I was gonna say I'll do those later on the router, but it's gonna be tongue and groove, so it doesn't matter. Ends I just gotta cut square on the table saw. So took a while, but definitely a good way to repurpose old pallets. And that's that. Here's a video of what can go wrong if you're not careful. This is playing at half speed because it's just too fast to really see what's going on. Smash the tripod and everything. So I learned after this, don't start at the end because that router bit can grab the wood and just throw it someplace. So if you kind of start indented a space like I did, that was probably about 1 inch, and run through, you'll be fine. And then at the end, you just go back to where you started and run it through backwards, which you'll see in the video here in a second. Doing this, I didn't have any issues. Nothing was burning out on me. Didn't have any more instances where the boards went flying. Notice I was being real careful there at the end. And here, see, I go in from this point and then feed it outward, which I found just prevented accidents from happening, which is pretty important when you got a router spinning around there. Here we're just cutting the tongue on the boards. Bearing up top on the router there, it's the little silver piece, just holds you right up against the edge of the wood, so you get a consistent depth cut back. Just had to do this with every single plank, which it took a while, and yes, it really is this loud. And again, you'll see I'm doing the end of the board there going in the opposite direction. Again, seemed to prevent a lot of accidents. Alright, so just finished ripping the 2 boards through here on the router. Here we have the groove, which isn't quite perfectly centered, but turns out it doesn't matter because we just offset the tongue on the other side. So we have this board that's ripped on both sides, tongued and grooved. This one just has the groove. Face sides up on both, of course. And there we go. I don't know if you'll be able to tell. It's not quite a perfect 100% joint here. I don't know if you can really see. I don't know if you can see that. There, you can kind of see it right here. Oh, that was a weird effect. So yeah, it doesn't quite match perfectly. There's, I don't know, maybe a 32nd of an inch difference. It's not huge. It'll be good enough. And then yeah, we'll just put some glue right in the joint there, and we'll be in business. So I bought some dowels last night thinking I'd have to dowel this together. Won't need those, so those can go back, so that's sweet. So I just got all those to do. And then on the bottoms of these, once they're all put together, I'm going to do a groove on all the bottoms. And then I'm going to do a tongue on the longboard, which will be the header and footer of this. So that is that. This is coming along quite nicely. I noticed that the tongues on all the boards here were probably a little bit too long because they're both cut at the exact same depth. and these wood boards aren't perfectly straight. So I'm just gonna sand these down real quick on the belt sander here, so I make sure everything fits in real nice. I also try to do a little bit of a bevel here so they slide in a little easier. So let's get sanded. Sanding my bevel is as easy as adjusting the angle on this table. To something right about here. This doesn't have to be accurate. No one's ever gonna see this. I'm just doing it so pieces slip together a little bit easier, so I don't have to do quite as much pounding with the rubber mallet. Alright, so I'm just basically cutting the bad ends, getting everything square on one end on these, just running them right through the table saw here. Then once I get all the ends finished, I will put a marker down at 24 inches and do another pass to get all my boards the same length. Then I'll probably put them all together before I run them through the router again to do the last tongue and grooves. All the boards have been cut to proper lengths. I'm wearing safety protection this time. Still got my hearing protection in. I've ripped my header board. So we now have this long board here. This will be, this specific one I think is the top, the other one's the bottom. I'm not positive, doesn't really matter which is which. This is going to get the tongue cut on it. So I'll be doing 2 passes, taking 1/8 of an inch of material off from the top and bottom edges of this board. On my short boards, I've already gotten the tongues and grooves cut on them, and we'll just be doing a tongue, or what am I saying, a groove. We're doing a groove down the center of each top and bottom on these boards. Now there's 8 boards, so that means 2 cuts per board, 16 cuts total, versus doing 32 cuts if I had to make the tongues, which would be top and bottom. So we'll do that. Shouldn't take too terribly long. Hopefully everything works out pretty well. I've made measurements this time, which I didn't first time, which is why the stuff's not actually centered. It shouldn't matter, you'll never see it, especially once the cap boards are put on. So, ouch. Let's get down to business. Here, I did just going from the end. I kind of had learned a little bit more about how to use a router and not break things or kill yourself. So that was probably a good thing to learn. Here, video footage, I think sped up double speed. On the plaque itself, there is a portion that has the cork board, which is the left-hand kind of upper portion. And I had to cut some stuff with a scroll saw for that. Also, the basket right below the corkboard, which is actually what I'm cutting right here, is the 2 walls for that. Kind of just a beveled piece on the bottom, and you kind of get these 2 little, I don't know, wedge-y shapes that'll both form the sides. Here I am cutting the portion out for the corkboard, which actually is not legit corkboard. It's some other type of material. Again, this video footage is sped up, I believe still double speed. I had to cut out these inside shapes because I couldn't do it on the table saw. Bandsaw would have actually worked better, faster. Cut quality probably wouldn't have been quite as smooth, but I did not have a bandsaw readily at my disposal, so I just used the scroll saw instead. Not to mention I'm far more comfortable using a scroll saw than a bandsaw, because a bandsaw's kind of powerful and can easily cut a finger off. With this, you would really have to work to cut your finger off. Just a little sanding on the inside edge there, you know, just to make things all nice and not be giving slivers to people as when I was commissioned to build this, I was told to make sure nobody would get slivers. Here, this is 12 speed, I think. 10 or 12 speed, 8 speed, I don't know, it's sped up quite a bit. Just gluing everything together. I didn't want to get glue on my dad's router table, so I threw the sales flyer underneath there, so on the off chance any glue were to leak out from between the joints, they would not get glued to the table there, and would just, you know, be glued to paper, which is real easy to sand off, doesn't make a mess. Had some issues with some of the upper pieces there. They actually broke on me when I was doing some other things, mainly trying to run them through the router, so I actually had to cut a piece myself on the scroll saw because I couldn't reroute it because it kept breaking. Drilling holes. Not too much to say here. The bottom portion has like 4 hooks, I believe it's 4 hooks, that are screwed into place. The screws themselves were, of course, not self-tapping, so I had to pre-drill holes into the wood so I could screw the hooks on. Not a big deal. Set the depth so I don't go through the board, and put little marks on it, and then I just had to drill a bunch of holes. And finally, the absolute best part of the entire video, painting at, I think this is 12 speed. Everything was glued together. I left the 2 baskets off while I painted. I figured this way, you know, paint's not acting like a glue, holding things together, which would be horrible, by the way. And if in the future it ever has to be pulled apart to make repairs on something, it will come apart real simple because it's not glued to itself or anything. Yeah, really not too much to say, just some water-based acrylic paint, cheap 99-cent brush. Put Duplos. I have a small collection of Duplos. I just grabbed a bunch of Duplo blocks and put them underneath on the bottom side of the plaque here, which turned out to be a genius idea, actually, except for the fact that I did get a little bit of paint on one of them, but I'm not too worried about that. Keeps the paint from dripping off the edges, sticking to the newspaper underneath it, so worked really well. The portion here that's not being painted is where the chalkboard will be sitting, which I actually haven't talked about prior to this in the video. I purchased a chalkboard from a local retailer, kind of a really cheesy chalkboard, like a sheet metal kind of wrapped around this cardboardy material, painted black with chalkboard paint. Yeah, it just kind of mounts with 3 screws from the top side, which I drilled holes for. You can't see them here at all, but there's 3 holes where the screws will go in. I had the screws pulled out when I painted, of course. That's about it. I'll just shut up now, and I guess we'll let the background music carry you through to the end. Thanks for watching. Definitely give this video a thumbs up or subscribe, though I don't usually do videos like this, so if you're watching it because it's this type of a video, you'll be super disappointed because I never do these videos. But I'm gonna shut up. Thanks for watching, guys.